The great irony of me doing this is I recorded most of this a couple of days ago and I ran out of time, and the whole video is about time management. Okay, so anyway, the first thing that I want to say to you before you hear anything that I said the other day is something is going to suffer. If you're going to manage your time well, something is going to suffer. There are way too many things demanding your time and interest. You've got work, you've got hobbies, things that you want to do on your own internal motivation. If you're following this channel, it's probably because you have children, spouse, significant other who is interested in your time. And then even the next ring out, you've got mother, father, or insert name here. There's someone outside of your family or maybe part of your extended family who wants your time. You've got activities. For me, it might be things at church and things they want me to volunteer for and participate in. Church is wanting some of my time. I've already mentioned my hobbies. And then you've got siblings, and you've got one step outside of that. You've got friends and other people who all want some of your time. And so if you don't recognize that there are only 24 hours, you are not going to be able to give all of those things a significant or satisfactory amount of time. You just got to be cool with that. I realize that what I'm asking you is not a small thing. In fact, being cool with it literally means that you have to be okay with somebody being disappointed that you are not spending enough time with them, or something not getting the attention that even you want to give it. If we're talking about, say, a hobby of yours or a desire, a thing that you want to fulfill. If you can manage that first, if you can just settle in your heart that I'm going to have to disappoint someone and I got to figure out how to manage that in order to maximize the things that I consider to be the most important, your priority list, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, then this is going to seem impossible. But if you can just accept that first, I think you can be successful in accomplishing the things that you want. Now that I have thoroughly disappointed you, let's jump into what I said the other day. So how do I manage my time? This is not an easy thing to do. It takes a great deal of discipline and effort. But I've got a couple of tips for you. So first, I'm constantly reminding myself that most things aren't quite as urgent as I make them. I mean, certainly we have deadlines and things are due on certain days, but it doesn't mean that you can't stop. A silly example of this might be you are on your way to work, you've got a project due today. It's got to be done by this afternoon. On your way to the car, you step on a random landmine that strangely appeared in your neighborhood and it blows your leg off. And you go, I really got to get to work and get this project done. Boy, my leg really hurts. Do I go to the hospital and potentially make my project late? Or do I just say, to heck with my leg, and I keep going? I mean, obviously this is a silly example, but it's a clear reminder that even though you walked out the door thinking, man, this thing has to happen today, does it actually have to happen today? And your family has to be part of that structure. When you make plans, which is one of the pillars of my schedule, is to say, the 15th of every month, we got our family day where we are going to play games. We're going to spend time together. We do a meal together. That's our thing. And we have other things. That one's the most rigid thing. But we have other days that we do things together. And sometimes I just walk into their room and sit on the floor and say, hey, what are you doing today? Tell me about your life. And also in another video, I talk about what I call the dad timer. When your kids are coming to you and they are pulling on your leg when they're little, or they're knocking on the door and they're asking you questions, but they really didn't have to ask you. These are all indicators that their timer is running out. They need time with dad. And these things should cause you to stop and think, is the thing I'm working on so important that I can't stop and do this for a little while? Absolutely, it's an interruption, and it hurts to lose progress, to stop that train of thought. For me, most of my thoughts are like a high-speed train, and it takes a while to hit the brakes and slide to a stop. And then I got to get this whole train moving again. That's so uncomfortable. I hate doing that, but it's so important. Because these kids and your wife especially, these are the people who are going to be around when all that work is gone, when all those urgent things are gone. These are the people you want to invest in and live for and help. get to that next stage in life. I want to pour into them. And if I want to pour into them, it means that I have to make them more important than the thing that feels important at the moment. Okay, so getting back to the original question, I schedule things, right? Like I usually get up before my kids get up and before my wife wakes up. And so that's a good opportunity to read a couple lessons in Mandarin Chinese. I'll do that first thing in the morning. So as a beginner, I can read a story that's where the content is actually interesting. I'm not reading a kid's story, but the language is simple enough for a beginner. I do the same thing in the evening, but there's some other things that I do to practice the speaking, although I spend most of my time focused on the reading because that's one of the fastest ways to acquire a new language. On the weekend, I do something similar. I avoid working on the weekend. I usually just spend time with the family, and I also spend at least a few hours studying the language. I try very hard to keep work from creeping into the weekend. That is a protected zone. You know your schedule better than me. Maybe you have to work on the weekend. That's part of your job. I think for most people, it's really good to have some hard lines that go all the way down to bedrock and nobody is crossing those lines. For me, the 15th of the month, our family day, that's a hard line all the way down to granite. Nothing is going to keep that from happening. If for some really amazing circumstance we can't do it on the 15th, we immediately reschedule it. Okay, we're going to do it on the 14th. We're going to do it on the 16th. If for some reason the 16th, the 15th is just absolutely not going to work. We arrange that together. It's like a whole family meeting. We make it a thing because I want them to feel the same kind of urgency for protecting this day. The way we do that is I tease them. If we get too close to the 15th and I say, hey, nobody's picked a game yet. Nobody's talked about why is nobody talking about this? What's going on? It's a big deal. And we laugh and we play and yeah, we'll eat this place and we'll play this game. And it's just a reminder that this is not only important, but that we want to be excited about it and we want to keep it up. And like I said, there are other things at other times. Those are more flexible. Those are more like lines in the sand. You are not going to nail it every time. Sometimes you're going to miss opportunities. But if you're missing more opportunities than you're catching, then you need to take a look in the mirror and go, man, what can I do? For me, the best thing I could do was actually put it on my calendar. Don't just chase whatever shows up in front of you because that will instantly fail. People will keep calling. People will keep demanding things of you. Work will ask for more and more time, and you will run out. There's only 24 hours. You need to schedule it, and you need to set boundaries. What's just as important as setting those boundaries is keeping the boundaries. If you said you were going to start work at a certain time and end work at a certain time, or start and end your hobby at a certain time, then as much as you want to send that last email, finish that glue up, or whatever the thing is that you want to work on, you have to draw hard lines and say, I'm going to stop and pick this up later. And let me also say that there's no shame in scheduling family time. If it's not happening now, it will never happen by accident. There is no reason you can't walk into your kid's room and say, I got 45 minutes. What you want to do? Let's play. Let's have fun. Let's talk. Tell me about your day. Or in the same vein, you can say 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock today, it's me and you, buddy. We're going to do something. So just go ahead and adjust your day to fit mine because that's how it's rolling today. Just have fun with it. There's no reason you can't make it what it needs to be to ensure it happens. It's also important to remember not to overbook yourself. You cannot book every minute of the day. At least you shouldn't, because it's really important for your brain to just have time to settle and be almost empty. Certainly this can swing the other way as well. You can waste a lot of time on nothing, right? If you spend half your day scrolling through social media, then you are killing a lot of valuable time on things that are really meaningless. And it might be mildly entertaining while you're doing it, but the truth is your kids are growing up during that whole process, and your wife is growing more and more distant because you're not spending time with her and talking to her. And other things are being neglected that need to happen, like just normal life stuff, like making sure the grass is cut and fixing things that are broken. Like as a man, you often have all kinds of things that are calling on you all the time. If you have multiple vehicles and your kids start driving and their car is breaking and your car is breaking, like all of these things require your attention, and these interruptions can just consume those free moments. This is why it's important to not book every minute of the day and make sure that you have some availability for emergencies. You can work a little bit on the things that you want, but there's a compromise there. You are not going to be able to just sequester yourself away and, spend all of your hours studying the thing you're excited about when all these other things are passing you by. I think probably the shortest answer I can give you is make a priority list. What is the most important thing to me? And what's the least important? Put them in order. And then look at your schedule and say, does my schedule reflect what I say is important to me? And if it doesn't, then you need to make some changes, right? Okay. I hope you can work with that. Go be a dad.